Cinderella, adapted and narrated by Kristen Standage. Once upon a time, in an ancient magical kingdom, a wealthy lord lived with his loving wife and young daughter Ella. They were happy until the lord's wife became ill. Knowing she would soon die, the lady called her daughter to her bedside. Ella, you are so full of love. Please forgive me for leaving you, and let the love in your heart heal any sorrow you may endure. Ella wept, but always remembered her mother's words and the love she had given to her. Ella's father hid from his grief by hastily marrying again to a lady with 2 daughters of her own. All 3 of them were beautiful, but their hearts were full of jealousy over the love and favors his lordship bestowed upon Ella alone. When Ella's father would leave on business for the king, her stepmother and sisters would dismiss the other servants and keep their wages for themselves. They took away Ella's beautiful clothes, dressed her in rags, and made her work as a scullery maid in the house, fetching water, making fires, cooking meals, washing and mending clothes. This would have been hard enough, but they also broke dishes, spilled food, tore seams, and let the dogs track mud through the house, all on purpose to give Ella more work. They laughed at her expense, spoke with cruelty, and locked her out of her warm room. Ella would sleep in front of the kitchen fire and wake up covered with ashes and soot, after which they called her Cinderella. Worst of all, they only let Ella eat the scraps of food left on their plates, which made Ella grow small and skinny. Even her feet were tiny. It's a good thing his lordship cannot see you like this. He would be so ashamed of you. The days passed slowly, and Ella clung to her mother's memory and the happy times when her father was home. She knew that allowing her pain to grow into bitterness and ill will for her stepmother and sisters would never make her happy. One day, his lordship asked his 3 daughters what they would like him to bring back from his travels. Ella's stepsisters asked for gowns, pearls, and jewels. Ella asked for something quite different. Bring me an oak sapling, Father. Mother loved her oak trees, and I can plant it near her grave where it can always watch over her. His lordship smiled and brought his daughter home the sapling she asked for. Ella planted it to the right of her mother's headstone and watered it with her tears. In the years that followed, Ella's tree grew up alongside her. She became a beautiful woman, and her tree became a home for silvery white doves. Ella's stepsisters had grown up as well, and it was time for them to attend their first royal ball at the palace. They wore Ella to the bone with their demands. Polish my shoes, hem my gown, pick the flowers for my hair, lace me tighter, fasten my necklace. Ella did not mind, for she could hardly contain her own excitement. The servants rang the bell, signaling that the carriage was ready. Ella ran to her room, only to find her gown lying on her bed in tatters. The door closed behind her, and Ella heard the key turn in the lock. She pounded on the door with her fists. "Let me out! Please let me go!" No one could hear Ella's cries downstairs, and Ella's stepmother informed his lordship that Ella was feeling too ill to attend the ball. As the carriage rolled away, Ella opened her window and cried out, "Father! Please! Don't leave without me!" But no one heard her. No one except the doves. They flew from her mother's tree, through her window, and into her room. A couple of the doves picked at the lock on the door, while the others took up the shards of cloth from Ella's bed and wove a ball gown that glittered like silver. The doves lifted the dress over Ella's head and laced her up. 2 pearl-white gloves slid over her work-worn hands. They pulled her hair up high in glittery ribbons and dropped 2 silvery slippers at her feet. They were so dainty, Ella wasn't even sure they would fit her tiny feet, but they did. Ella let a dove land on her finger, and she kissed it gratefully. "Oh, thank you. Thank you so much." The doves unlocked Ella's door, and she rushed from the room. She begged the servants to ready the spare carriage, and was soon on her way to the ball. Ella's heart pounded as she entered the ballroom, but no one recognized her, not even her own father. Lords and ladies of all ages whispered to each other, trying to guess who the lovely and mysterious foreign princess in the silvery dress might be. Ella's stepmother and sisters looked positively green with envy. The crown prince saw the embarrassed blush come to Ella's face and made up his mind to rescue her. After rushing to her side, he held out his hand. "May I have the honor of this dance?" Too nervous to speak, Ella simply nodded, and the prince began whirling her around the dance floor. Wanting to put her at ease, the prince told Ella a joke that made her laugh out loud for the first time since her mother had died, and from that moment on, they talked and laughed like they had been friends their entire lives. When other gentlemen would ask Ella for a dance, the prince would say, "Sorry, my friend, I cannot spare her." It was the most wonderful night of Ella's life, until the prince said, "I just realized I don't even know your name. Won't you tell me?" Ella wanted to tell him, but at that exact moment she saw her stepmother's glare of hatred out of the corner of her eye, and knew how she would be punished if she was discovered. I have to go." Ella ran from the ballroom. The prince tried to catch her, but every other lady on the dance floor barred his way. As Ella ran down the palace steps to her carriage, one of her slippers caught on a loose stone and was yanked off her foot. She would have picked it up, but the prince was already racing down the stairs after her. "Wait! Stop! Oh, please come back!" Ella jumped into her carriage and told the driver to hurry home. She locked herself back inside her room and hid her beautiful gown and slipper away. The crown prince picked up the slipper Ella had left on the steps. The following day, he showed it to his father, the king. "I am in love with the woman who wore this slipper, and I want to marry her." The king gathered all the members of his council together. He asked them if they knew anything about the mysterious princess who attended the ball. They, of course, knew nothing, until Ella's father saw the shoe in the prince's hands. "That slipper is so dainty. It could be my daughter Ella's. She has the tiniest of feet, but she was ill the night of the ball. The prince asked Ella's father if he could meet her, and his lordship was honored to welcome the crown prince into his home. Ella's sisters could hardly contain their excitement when his lordship arrived home unexpectedly with the prince, but their faces fell when the gentleman asked for Ella. Her stepmother struggled to come up with an explanation. "I'm afraid I don't know where Ella's got off to this morning. She's always running wild, like a little gypsy girl." This both confused and worried Ella's father greatly. "That does not sound like my Ella. Perhaps she is visiting her mother's grave. Will you indulge me, Your Highness?" Ella's father led the prince to the family cemetery, where they found a ragged servant girl sitting under a tree and singing along with the doves. Ella jumped at their approach, and his lordship finally recognized his cherished daughter under the black soot covering her cheeks. He took her tenderly into his arms. "Ella, my precious girl, why are you dressed like this? Look at your hands, calloused and blistered. What have they done to you? I'll see them stripped of their titles and banished from the kingdom." "No, father, I will be fine now. Please forgive them, as I have. They only ever wanted your love and affection. Revenge will not content you. Please, try to forgive them and show them mercy as mother would have." "For you, my daughter, I will try." Ella let her father's embrace heal all her wounds until she realized who he had brought with him. Her father chuckled at her embarrassed blush. "You have a visitor." The prince approached Ella with a smile and held out her slipper. "May I?" Once again, Ella could only nod. The prince knelt and placed the slipper on Ella's dainty foot. It fit perfectly. Ella cried and wiped dirty tears from her face. "Oh, I must look a terrible fright." "Your ability to love and forgive makes you the most beautiful woman in my kingdom." Ella and the prince were married, and she became the most benevolent queen the country had ever known.